Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are going to continue our quarterfinal preview. Next game is Morocco versus Portugal. Morocco finished first in Group F and beat Spain in penalty kicks in the round of 16. Portugal finished first in Group H and demolished Switzerland 6-1 in the round of 16 for their tie. Gio, what did you predict for this upcoming game?
I predict more of the same from Morocco, at least. I can't guarantee what I can expect from Portugal because they haven't faced a team that's going to set up like this yet, and I don't think many teams have. So, I think Morocco, again, like I said in the last one, very well disciplined in terms of staying in that low block and getting even lower on the low block when times got tougher, and they held that for 120 minutes. Yeah, I think they'll do most of the same. Because if not, this Portuguese side offensively and their talent is much deeper than the Spanish side. So, with that being said, I can't see anything far different from Morocco. Now, in terms of Portugal, it's going to be interesting because they made a few changes, of course. In particular, Joao Cancelo, who didn't start, who we know is very offensively gifted, who we know does have size, does have a great long range shot, things of that nature. So does he come back in for Dallo, or does he even start for Rafael Guerrero, who is a little on the smaller side in terms of aerial threats? He's not that much of a threat, not more so than Joao Cancelo. Or you can do set pieces from the corner or designed plays from the corner where you set Joao Cancelo up for a shot from outside the box or just outside the box. Things of that nature. You kind of have to figure out what you want to do when 11 other guys are going to sit behind the ball. So, I think Portugal have a lot on their hands, although, the numbers suggest otherwise. They're going to have to figure a way out to sort of break through this fortress.
Okay, so it sounds like it's going to be, obviously Portugal coming off the back of that 6-goal game, and Morocco, who's just been hard-headed in defense. It's going to be a lot of Portugal trying to break down that core defense for Morocco. So, Mac, give us some of your thoughts for this game.
I think this might be the toughest test Portugal have faced thus far, given the play style Morocco are going to play. And I completely agree with Gio in terms of the low block. Not many teams in this World Cup have started out with a game plan of, we're going to park the bus from minute one, right? Most teams have, in certain areas of the pitch, we are going to apply pressure, if that would be just inside their own half and try to deny entry into their half. Less so, where we're going to be comfortable like 3 to 5 yards outside the 18, and that's when we'll start working and to be able to move forward. So I think that would be an interesting lineup, interesting matchup in terms of play style, and Portugal will be much more comfortable on the ball. Especially in their previous games, even though they had just won 6-1, coming off into great form, I think this game might be a little bit tougher in that manner. And the only way that can circumvent that, very similarly against Switzerland, is if you're able to get an early goal, right? Where if Portugal kind of do score out early, I don't think Morocco should change their game plan really. But if they do, the further the game goes in, they're going to be able to apply more and more pressure and get that second, third, fourth goal potentially. So I think this may be a very tough matchup. The interesting part, and what worries me about Morocco, is that their best central defender and captain, Roman Saiss, the Wolves player, he's picked up a knock in the previous game. And if you're watching the end of the game, he could barely walk when going to shake hands with Busquets for the penalties. So there is an injury concern there, and they don't have a lot of depth in the central defense, as well as your two best players are your wide back, Mazraoui and Hakimi, which against this Portugal team, I think in the other side, that is their one area positive, that they're so great in the wide back position, and they're so aggressive and are great runners that they might be able to do something on the counter, not even from the winger position. Is really if Zia could pick up the ball and you have those two guys blazing on either wide back and try to be able to hit them on the counter. I think that's their clear game plan, but I think it will be a tough day for them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it there. Roman Saiss, Doubt, Hakim Ziyech, Yusuf and Naziri, 1 goal each for Morocco, them scoring 3 goals and conceding 1 so far. Flip side, Portugal 12 goals for and 4 against. And I guess the question that we have to ask, because Gonçalo Ramos is the leading goal scorer for Portugal, is with 3 goals, is who will start in that lineup for Portugal against Morocco. Gio, give us some of your thoughts.
I think the age old question that you meant to ask is, does CR7 start? And I think the answer is yes. I think stylistically, this type of low block sitting team, Ronaldo does benefit where he doesn't have to press as much, less movement, and more passing around in tight areas, and maybe getting a shot off from outside the box where he can drop deep and do so. And we've seen it, years and years and years, where he's done that. And again, aerial threats, whether from corners, from free kicks, crosses into the box, I think he does benefit in those areas as opposed to Ramos. And again, even like if you were to win a free kick from outside the box, I think you do value the variety you'll have on pitch with Ronaldo out there. Although it may not be his shot or whatever the case, having that threat out there does kind of keep Morocco on their toes just that much more. So no, I think he'll get the start. Would I be shocked if he doesn't? I can't be shocked about anything at this point with him. But I definitely would favor a CR7 start here.
Interesting. And before I give you the chance to make your point, Mac, I actually disagree. I think, I'm not sure you guys saw it. I saw it on Twitter. Gonzalo Ramos got a 9.8 rating yesterday. And then the question was, what more does he have to do to get a 10? Hey, man, first hat trick, and coming off that game and that performance, I think you have to give it back to him just because of how well Portugal played. And then once Gonzalo Ramos tires out whoever Morocco fields in center defense, then you throw in Ronaldo to find space in that crowded box as, Portugal, if they haven't scored already, are looking to score. Or if Portugal have already scored, Morocco's going to have to throw bodies up and Ronaldo will get you a goal. So I think, for me personally, I would start Gonzalo Ramos and then bring Ronaldo on. But Mac, did you agree with Gio or myself?
I'm more so agree with Gio. I think actually the other way around. I think Ramos is probably more effective running in behind, applying pressure that way. So when they already have a lead, that's where he may be a little bit more successful. I think if I'm Portugal, I know this might be a little bit radical and I dealt with what happened. You can be very comfortable in midfield and out wide to go as aggressive as you want now. I think in midfield, I would go with Carvajal probably centrally and play Bruno and Bernardo Silva both in the number 8 position, because you're going to dictate tempo. So you need quick decision makers in midfield that are going to be able to give the ball out wide to wingers that are either going to crash the box or put quick balls into the box. And I think Leao, Joao Felix both have potential to do that. To Ronaldo, who's just going to be poaching there. And this is probably the easiest way forward to attack a team like this, is when you're going to be heavy in possession, rotate the ball quickly in and around to try to shift them side to side. And once you have an advantage, dump a ball into a box to a striker getting onto it. I think in this probably would be his best chance, in my opinion, for Portugal, to score Ronaldo his first knockout round World Cup goal, because he still hasn't scored one. And I think this might be a good shout for him, where easily in that position, especially if Roman Saiss is not playing, I could see him running onto a ball, being pulled down from when he's trying to go for a header. He gets a penalty shot. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that might be the easiest way for them to be able to get an advantage and making sure they're dominant in that midfield. The only thing that for me that changes is if at, let's say, the 60th, 70th minute mark, they still haven't scored. Do you look to kind of make that change and bring on a little bit of more of an aggressive presser on the ball? At that point, sure, I think Ramos could be a good fit. And to your point, the only reason why he didn't get a 10 is because his name's not different on the back of his jersey. That's my take. Just how it is. So I think there is a clear plan for him to get back into the lineup. I think what'd be more interesting, after this game, they're going to face, no matter what a team, if they do win, that's going to play very different. I think, does he start that game is a much bigger question for me. I know this might be speaking a little bit too far, and I'm sorry for any Morocco fans, that if this were to happen, I probably wouldn't start him then, because that team that they're going to be facing, either England or France, is going to play very, very different, and he might not be up to that task. But for this game, I think this is a good way for him to get in and have an opportunity to get on the score sheet and play well.
Okay. I guess we've kind of covered pretty much anything that could happen in this game. So, Gio, I guess give us your final game result predictions.
I think it will be a 2-0 win for Portugal. I think goals will be hard to come by, because you got to give credit to Morocco for staying that disciplined, and give up 0 goals. I think goals are definitely going to be. You're not going to see a lot of them in this game. So if you're expecting a lot of goals like the last game that Portugal played, I I wouldn't bet on it. So definitely bet the under for you betters. But yeah, definitely a 2-0 win here.
Okay, Mac, same question.
I'm gonna go with a 1-0 win for Portugal. I think, as Gio said, goals are gonna be really hard to come by. I think probably maybe the 55th minute after the second half, maybe Morocco switches off and Portugal either score from a set piece, or from a cross like I highlighted. So I think that's more so what I think would happen, and I would be skeptical if Morocco can get a goal. I think the only way they can, like I said, is on the break with the wide back, or if Ziyech has a masterful free kick. That's probably about it.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Morocco not scoring a whole lot. So chances are not going to have a lot of the ball either. And so definitely that's a way I think Morocco can look to score if they get the chance. But let me just wrap up this part with a quick mention. We're covering obviously all the teams that made it through. Only group that we haven't really mentioned, Group E, with technically what people considered the group of death, with Japan, Spain, Germany, Costa Rica. None of those teams made it through to the quarterfinals. So just something that I found interesting. You'd expect Spain and Germany to be in these latter stages, but unfortunately they're not. So let's take another break here, guys, and then we'll be back with the last quarterfinal game to preview. So stay with us. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We're gonna finish off the podcast previewing the last quarterfinal game, which is, I think, the big one: England versus France. England first in the Group C, beating Senegal 3-0 in the round of 16. France finishing first in Group D, and beating Poland 3-1 in their round of 16 fixture. But I want to go to Mac, obviously. We have to get his opinion on this one. England, France, very, very tight. What do you think will happen, Mac?
I think this will be a very cagey game, and I think it's underratedly going to be a very boring game as well. Both managers like to be very conservative. I think this will be the game that Southgate switches to a back three. Maybe we can have a conversation around that, and kind of adjust its midfield and let them be a little bit more conservative. And France, historically, under Deschamps, have been a very reserved team as well, looking to be able to get on the break. So I think both teams will go into this match trying not to lose it, less so looking to win it. I think that might not create a very interesting game, but it will create maybe a one moment or two moments of mistakes that will lead to a goal and one team losing. I think really this is as even of a matchup as we've seen thus far in the World Cup. Really, you could flip a coin and predict who's going to win. I think it's fairly close. So I'll be very interested to see what does separate the two teams coming into this result. After, of course, when we review the game. But overall, a very exciting match, and it could go either way.
Okay, Gio, both teams you can make an argument have the strongest squads in the tournament. Also, England got to the World Cup semifinals and were Euro 2020 finalists. Whereas France, just simply World Cup holders. So, Gio, what do you expect England France?
I expect a very fun game. I think, obviously, as we know, as Mac has mentioned, both teams are quite conservative. No, both managers are quite conservative. But I think, I think France edges out because of Mbappe. And I say this because, there's a lot of rumors about, Gareth Southgate having a plan on how he's going to stop Mbappe. You don't just simply stop Mbappe. You can contain him for as long as you can. Like Matty Cash. I know you're going to say, compare England to Matty Cash. But, hey, they tried. He tried his best. And, it just took him till maybe, the 70th minute to crack. But, yeah, I just think France, as a team, have just been more cohesive. I know you could say, after that 6-2 win against Iran, you kind of see some
Australia.
plateau
Australia.
with. Oh,
Oh,
Talking
sorry.
about
I'm sorry. I'm
England,
sorry. You're talking about England. Oh, my
yeah.
bad.
yeah,
My bad.
yeah,
My bad.
I'm talking about England. So after that 6-2 win against Iran, people are almost having doubts about England. Where they almost got outplayed by the U.S. and all that game was missing from the U.S. was a goal. So they played very well against England, and I think this time off doesn't. How do I say this? If England can play back-to-back games, I think they would. Just because they ride a lot of momentum, and when they have time off and start thinking and start getting too into the media, that doesn't benefit them. There's a lot of pressure on England to do well. I think there's less pressure on France to do um, less pressure on France to win this game because of the quote unquote World Cup curse. There's definitely more pressure for England to take advantage because this arguably is one of the better England squads we've seen in quite some time. In terms of your starting 11, even down to your bench. So I think we will see a lot more goals than people intend on seeing because of the conservative managers. So yeah, I think me personally, I think it'll be a very fun game for everybody to watch.
I honestly, Gio, I expect a lot of goals. Well, I hope for a lot of goals, though I do expect a low scoring game because obviously England France sounds delicious as a matchup. But Matt, before I throw it back to you, just wanted to read out a stat. France are actually unbeaten in 24 matches after scoring the first goal. Does this sort of change the England approach? Who they line up with? How can they set up and dealing with Mbappe? What do you think?
I think that's a very interesting conversation. I actually don't think Mbappe will be a match winner for this game. I think he's going to have a tough time because England are going to definitely gear their game plan towards them. Kyle Walker, who I think is going to be the clear matchup, probably starting at the right center back position and doubling up with Kieran Trippier probably in the right wing back position against Mbappe. And against Mbappe thus far in his career when he's played for Man City against PSG, he hasn't done well. That's not going to be the deciding factor, in my opinion, for this game. I think I know, Gio, I apologize, but in terms of everything you said, I almost completely think the opposite of it because Mbappe's not going to be the difference. I think the difference has to be Dembele against Luke Shaw. I think just as when I highlighted in our review of the previous round of 16, I think that will probably be the key matchup where he's going to be isolated one-on-one either against Luke Shaw or Harry Maguire a lot of the time because so much of the possession is going to be focused in terms of the passing and the movement on the left-hand side for France. If there's a simple switch, you have him one-on-one against either of those people. If he's having a good game, he could dust both of them. Let's be real here. I know Luke Shaw has had an impressive tournament thus far. Harry Maguire has had an impressive tournament thus far. But if Dembele is on his day, it's not close. So I think that will be more so the match winner there. I think it'll be interesting to see if Southgate at that point does adjust. Maybe does he play Maguire essentially? I doubt it. Stones maybe left center back. I doubt it. I think they're going to be very rigid and keep kind of their formation that they did in the Euros. The impact, though, for me on them will happen more so in the midfield. Is to get an extra center back, you're going to be losing midfielder. In all likelihood, I think we can agree that would be Jordan Henderson won't be starting. So we'll see a duo of Declan Rice with Jude Bellingham, and Bellingham will have to be more reserved, so he may not be as important for England offensively. But to switch it around, and I know I'm going long here, I apologize, but a lot of questions we're answering in terms of what are England going to do against France defensively. I think the same question can be asked on the other side. Theo Hernandez is not really a wide back in terms of his defensive positioning. And who they're playing at wide back, Jules Koundé, is not really a wide back. He's normally playing as a central defender. So those areas are going to be very key for France because I would still, just as on the other side, Saka against either one of those players or Foden against either one of those players, very similar to Dembele, I think they'll get dusted. So I think whichever team's wingers, more so Dembele for France and for England, their wingers, who shows out, I think that will lead to who more likely would come out with the win.
Oh man, these matchups, man, just making me very, very excited for this England-France game. You can see little individual battles all throughout the game. Like you said, Mac. Obviously, we have Mbappe, whoever he faces down that right side for England, and then Dembele. And then the flip side, you're talking about potentially who's going to go in behind the wide backs. Is it going to be Saka? Does Foden start after his great performance, or will they go with Rashford, who's the leading goal scorer for England with 3 goals? And we haven't
tied
even
English leading goal scorer with Saka, by the way. I just want to make sure you get
Oh.
the record. They both have 3 goals.
Sorry, my mistake. So there you go. And we haven't even mentioned the 2 number 9s for both teams, Olivier Giroud and Harry Kane. So I guess Gio, I just want to mention as well, England have 12 goals for, 2 against, France 9 goals for, 3 against. Not a lot to separate them. I guess, can you think, Gio, can not Mbappe, Giroud or Harry Kane play a role in sort of exposing the weaknesses of the defenses from, I would argue, the 2 teams that don't have really the most world class standout defenders so far. What do you think, Gio?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. I think in their each individual sort of quirks and ways they can. As we've seen, Olivier Giroud is very great at running in behind, getting into the tight spaces, getting those dirty goals, or even, in the box, getting a shot off on net. Very capable of that. Even a bicycle kick, that didn't count. But when Harry Kane is able to do Harry Kane things and drop back and help out that midfield, and really drive the ball, open himself up for a long range shot as well. That doesn't bode well for Lloris as well. So when you talk about these number 9s, it can literally go either way, because I don't think Jordan Pickford has really had too much to deal with. This is probably for both teams the best offensive 3 or best offensive teams they've faced thus far. And it's granted, it's the quarterfinals. You expect it. So yeah, no, it's going to be a huge challenge for both teams. Now, which offense is going to be more efficient? That's the big argument here. But both teams have scored many goals. We've seen what England can do against sloppy defenses, and just once they do get going, they continue to score. So, and the same goes for France. Once Mbappe does get that itch or get that monkey off his back, he then starts shooting more, getting more aggressive. But again, to Mac's point, yeah, no, I agree. Dembele's performance is going to be huge for France, because that's going to drive the attention off Mbappe and kind of open up more space for Mbappe. So yeah, I think Dembele's performance is going to be huge. And I just want to mention one thing: X Factor actually can be argued as Adrien Rabiot, who does a lot of dirty work for France. That goes unnoticed. That doesn't get
True.
the fame and everything like that. He does all the dirty work. Runs back for tackles on the goal line, whatever it may be. He's there. He's a big body. He's been putting in the work the whole tournament. So I do gotta give him credit there. He is an X factor, if you want to think about it like that, where he's gonna have to deal with that midfield a lot of the times. And even Jude, when he's driving down the pitch full force, he's gonna take those. He's probably going to be the one taking those gritty fouls. So I think a lot of that is going to come down to how he performs that day.
And just before you jump in, Mac, even Griezmann, who we haven't even mentioned, has been quietly doing his work up there too. So many different matchups and ways to that each team can really attack at each other. But Mac, sorry, go ahead.
I agree. I was going to bring up both of those names actually, is because when France are out of possession, they switch into a 4-4-2 where you have Mbappe, Giroud up top. And Rabiot is actually the one that fills in as kind of a left midfielder, and Griezmann's kind of a left central midfielder. So it's very interesting their positioning going into this game, and if there are ways if England can exploit when they're getting out of possession in transition, while these players are not in the correct position defensively, can they be quickly taken advantage of? But X Factor, actually, I wanted to ask both of you, which goalkeeper has more of a mistake? Because I think that just as likely could have a very strong bearing on this game, because let's be real here. I know Pickford has like a Superman jersey on when he plays for England. Still not 100% convinced, I'll be honest with you. And I don't think I ever will be. And Hugo Lloris, it should be Hugo Lloris, I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball, Lloris. That should be his name. So I'm very curious to see, what do you think that could be an outcome where a goalkeeper error is what causes either team to lose the game, really?
I think so for sure. You cannot rule it out. Gio?
No, very possible.
Who would be more likely, though? Who would be more likely? Who do you think is more likely to make a mistake?
I think based on just opportunities and shots on net, I think Jordan Pickford has more of an opportunity to make a mistake,
So
especially from those
I want to
long-range
confirm something.
belters.
I want to confirm something, Gio. This proves that you're a Spurs fan deep down.
Oh, because
Hey,
I picked the
Because
Spurs.
you defend
Okay,
Richarlison,
okay.
you defend Hugo Lloris. Spurs
Hey,
fan.
no. Again, like I've mentioned in previous podcasts, if you're not wearing a Spurs kit, you're okay with me. Once you put that shit on, no, that's where I draw the line.
Sorry.
I actually have the total opposite take. I think Hugo Lloris, who will not be facing as many shots, is more prone to a mistake because I think France, I think, should outchance England, maybe just by a few chances. But Hugo Lloris, if he's not really doing much, I think, will be very susceptible to dropping the ball, letting that ball go through. Whereas Pickford, if he's on it, he's yelling and he has obviously is in tune with his defense. I think he's more on it. So, I mean, it could go either way, man. So let's wrap it up here, guys, with your predictions. Mac first, game result prediction for this game.
2-0 England.
Ooh.
2-0 England. I don't think France score.
Wow, no bias there, eh, bud?
Oh, 100% biased. I never said. Did I say I was not? I was unbiased there. What are you talking about? No, I think the difference with me is that Dembele didn't look the greatest in his last game, and I think he's going to be the biggest X factor. And in transition, I don't think France have enough. Tchouaméni is left a lot by himself, and if the battle goes between Jude pressing, getting on overlap beyond Tchouaméni, and him to have to deal with it, I'm going to take Jude, as well as if Maguire and Shaw play well, as I know this is so it's so hard to say, but if they play well enough to deal with Dembele, I don't think offensively. I think the questions people are saying about France about how many issues they can pose for England, I think is a little bit too much overblown. That's my take. It's biased. Sticking to it. Clean sheet, baby. Harry Maguire, MVP.
Gio, same question.
Wow, Harry Maguire MVP. That's crazy. 3-1 France.
Oh,
yeah, no bias there. Oh, okay.
Hey.
3-1 France. Bias? What's bias about it?
You hate England. That's the bias.
I don't hate England. I love English football.
You love Harry
I
Kane
love
England?
English. Yeah, I love him more than
Sure.
Spurs Harry Kane England. That's for
He's taking the piss.
bro. That's for damn sure. But I just think when it comes down to it, I think offensively, especially the front three in particular, I think are just more cohesive, and I think will frustrate this ever so consistent England backline. It's hard to bet against Mbappe. So, boom, I think the curse doesn't continue yet. I think they'll make it into the semifinals, and then when they face Portugal, that's a different story.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up. This concludes our podcast for today. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. Our handle is @house_of_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, feel free to get in touch with us as well. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. The next time you hear from us will be Monday when we review the quarterfinal games for the FIFA 2022 World Cup. So on that note, thank you, Mac, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gio.
Let's go, France, baby.
And thank you, guys. Peace out.